Hi, welcome back. This time we're going to be looking at what life was like in Pompeii by looking through some of the sources, and we're going to be focusing our short videos here on the economy of Pompeii. Now, before we get too far down the track, I haven't included any bibliographies or references in these sources. So first thing I want to do is say, have a look at this book, okay, Secrets of Vesuvius, okay, by Cameron and Lawrence. It's a pretty good book. It's in our school library, and I've got a lot of information out of that. If you're wanting to have a look at that book and get a bit more detail and practice with sources, that's one you can get from the library. The other book that's fairly good for you to have a look at is this one. I'll try and get it in shot for you. Here we are, Pompeii and Herculaneum. Okay, it's by Zarmati. It's also in the Potter Library. So have a look for that one. It's a bit hard when its name's down the bottom there. But this one is in the Potter Library as well. And I found them really useful to get some good information about. So let's have a look at an overview in this video of the Pompeii's economy. Okay, so I'll take my time through here so you can have a read through it. But when we look at Pompeii and Herculaneum, we've got to remember they're really different types of places. Pompeii is a trading centre. Okay, Herculaneum, probably not bad. I imagine it a little bit, possibly like a bit of a Noosa. It is a seaside resort for the wealthy. Now, around Pompeii, we've got architecture, agriculture, small-scale manufacturing, and it's an area where slaves are used very, very widely. So they're the three main components of what it meant to be in, I guess, industry in Pompeii. Now, the farmlands around Pompeii are run by really respectable farmers. This is an area where it's the reputable sort of job to be a farmer in the countryside. The landowners in the countryside around Vesuvius have a lot of status. They're really looked up to in the community. In the town of Pompeii itself, most people are working in small businesses. They possibly are operating in workshops, or they're working from home. Now, it's clear that a lot of people are making goods in their own home. And sometimes it's difficult to know if they're selling those goods that they make in their own home, or it's being used for their own use. So there are limitations on the sources we can access. The household jobs seem to include spinning wool and weaving. So these are jobs that can be done either to make money externally, like a business, or they could be just done within the home. It's a little unclear. There are limitations on the sources here. Okay, now, we're not sure about whether the income these families are earning are supplemented or really the lion's share of their income come from what they make. But we do know there are commercial weaving workshops in the town. Think of these workshops as mini factories. Okay, another great source when we look at Pompeii is 153 carbonized wax tablets. So these are, from the heat, preserved wax tablets, and I'll have a look at some photographs in a moment. Wax tablets are almost like books that close, and you would scrape into the wax with a stylus, a bit like you have on your tablet. You'd scrape into it records. These are a form of written record, and when they're closed, they would last a long time. The volcano carbonized them, made them hard, and preserved them forever. So these wax tablets that are in a guy called Caecilius's home. Caecilius's home has 153 of them. They're receipts for his loans. He's a banker. They're rent payment records and other business transactions. So we can actually see what's going on in the business world. Okay, it would be like getting all of the Excel spreadsheets of a small business now. The other thing that we need to think about when we go into Pompeii is the huge number of shops, taverns, and bars that have been done. Now, a lot of the shops are actually hot food shops, and I kind of think of these as perhaps our takeaway food venues. This would be a little bit like uncovering a huge number of food courts going down the main streets of Pompeii, where people would buy food on their way to and from their business, on their way to and from home. So hot food, restaurant type takeaway shops. Okay. Also, there's about 20 taverns. Think of them as bars, drinking, they're inns, 20 small pubs. Okay, And there's evidence of one large market that operated once a week in the Forum. Now, that market would sell everything from flour to cloth, all sorts of items that people needed. Once a week, a major market would operate. So let's have a look now at some of these sources. So, at Caecilius's home, we actually have a sign, an inscription on the wall, and these inscriptions are all over Pompeii. So you can see Domus, meaning the home, of Lucius Caecilius Lucunda, or Lucundus. Okay, so this is actually attached to the wall of his home. We can actually see who lives there. This is a photograph of wax tablets. It is meant to be seen as a kind of a book that would open and close, and you can see the metal stylus that would be scraped into the wax. And so we can't see anything written on here, but on wax tablets, the 153 in his home, there are actually written records. Here's a not a floor plan, a street map, if you like, of Pompeii, giving you a sense of the size of it, the number of blocks, and it also gives you an idea of the positioning of Caecilius's home and how large it is compared to many of the other venues, including the amphitheatre, which is over on the eastern side of Pompeii. Notice there are some areas that are still yet unexcavated. You can see, running along here, a street of shops. Many of the taverns and many of the hot food shops are located around there. All right, the last thing is an internal view of what these structures look like. This is a tavern. This is the bar. The holes that you can see here are actually for hot food. So you would go to the bar, you would get your drink, your wine would be served to you, and hot food would be kept in here. So it's like a servery where you would get your drinks as well. And preserved on the wall are various paintings and so on. And these, again, give us a sense of what Pompeii is like. In a lot of these places also have things covered with graffiti. So absolutely amazing places. We'll go on from here to have a look at some more details. Okay, Pompeii, one of the key things we need to know is about 40% of the population of Pompeii were slaves. Now these slaves tend to live in very small quarters within households of their owners. They did most of the manual labour, but there were some educated slaves who ran businesses on behalf of their masters and mistresses. The freemen, who were owners of the slaves, were often very wealthy Roman citizens. Now, the sources for slavery include graffiti and inscriptions, and it refers to slaves looking after rental agreements, looking after the payment of taxes, other jobs. What did the slaves do? Well, they were the main workforce in the wool and textile industry. They made the pottery. They did the metal work. They were involved in the olive oil production. They made the wine. They made the bread. So let's have a little bit of a look at some of the sources connected to them. This is the home of Pansa, okay, the house of Pansa. And it was quite a large building. What's interesting is it had a sign in it. And we can actually see an inscription of that sign written in Latin. We've got it translated here. Let's have a look at what it actually says. The city block of Aripoli in the possession of Gnaeus Elias Nigius Maius is available to rent from July 1st. There are shops on the first floor, upper stories, high-class rooms and a house. A person interested in renting this property should contact Primus, the slave of Gnaeus Elias Nigius Maius. That's pretty cool. So the slave is actually running the rental. He's operating like the real estate agent for his master. And that's really amazing. So this is obviously a very trusted slave, not doing the jobs that we might consider slaves doing. We often think of just manual labour. This guy is looking after rental agreements. Let's have a couple of look at the other ones. This is a plaster cast of a slave that was killed during the eruption, buried. Archaeologists have found the cavity where the body was and have poured plaster in. We've got a plaster cast of what this person looked like as they fell and died. What's interesting in this particular source is we have got metal shackles around the ankles of the slave. Possibly this stopped them getting away from the actual volcano that killed them. Really worth having a look at that. Quite a cruel one. And I suspect this is not a slave trusted like the one in the House of Panza. Okay, the last two. Top one is a painting of a female slave tidying the belongings of their master. And at the bottom, we have mosaics showing slaves at work in manual tasks. You can see them here shifting pieces of wood, weighing them, and so forth. Very, very interesting what's going on in all of this. And this is covering all of Pompeii. We get a sense of how people lived their lives.